Campbell River's permanent exhibits are a chronological walk through time of the human history of the northern Vancouver Island area. So when you walk into the first space, it starts with an origin story relating to a local First Nations family. From that area, you go into our First Nations exhibits. The First Nations have inhabited this region according to archaeological record for 10 to 15,000 years. We decided in our space to do a visible storage style exhibitry where we could feature some of the ceremonial gear and everyday items of the First Nations of this region. There are over 40 First Nations in the northern Vancouver Island region. That's a challenge to tell that story in a very small space. There are three main linguistic groups, the Coast Salish, the New Channels, and the Kwakwaka'wakw. So in the museum's collection, there are examples from each of these groups. One of the highlights in the First Nations gallery is an exhibit that we call Treasures of Seaweedy. The museum worked with and negotiated with a First Nations family who owned an origin story to exhibit the story of their ancestor Seaweedy in the undersea world. The other aspect of this particular installation is that we wanted to feature some of the more prominent Kwakwaka'wakw First Nations artists in our region. So over a period of years, the masks were commissioned for this installation. So the intent was to do two things: to share one family's prerogative and create understanding about that, and to illustrate that this is a culture that is very much alive and present today.